Hello guys, this is going to be a spontaneous video and I'm going to post it raw like this. So I've been seeing a lot of comments, a lot of conversation surrounding um, choice of marriage, and this is what I mean by choice of marriage. Questions about, can you marry this person? Can you marry that person? Can you be with this person? And I'm speaking from the believer's context here. If I'm bringing up such conversation like this, I will always speak uh, on behalf of the believers, not really on behalf of the believers, but within the context of believers. So, for instance, um, there is a question that was asked that can a lady marry a guy that um, confide in her that he is impotent or is having a low sperm count? But the part of the low sperm count, I don't think that can easily be ascertained unless the guy go for a test or guy go for, or they are already married. Yes. So, but generally churches now are now doing more medical tests than what they used to do before. Churches now do hepatitis tests, now do sperm count tests, they now do fertility tests for both male and female, and the like, which they don't do before. And I think because of the high rate of divorce or high rate of issues in marriage, especially commonly seen now in the newly wedded couples. That is why churches also adopt um, some of those things generally. So the question about, can a lady marry a guy that is impotent or that has a low sperm count shouldn't be generalized. Actually, yes, there's a story out there of a marriage that the lady had to cry out eventually after some months or a certain period. I can't really say, probably months, or it was more than a year or two, that the husband was impotent. The husband cannot perform at all. And one, the guy didn't tell the lady before the marriage. It was after the wedding, in their marriage, that the lady got to know. At least they have to consummate their marriage. They have to consummate the whole thing. That was when the lady got to know that the guy cannot. Probably the guy won't try to cover it up, lie for a while. That probably I'm on the mountain, I'm doing fasting, I'm doing some programs that we need to have time, we need to see time, blah blah blah, before we do it. That was how the guy was able to cover up for, it's a lie that you cannot cover for eternity. So when the lady eventually cried out, the pastor, the minister that joined them together, had to dissolve the marriage. In that regard, it won't be recorded as divorce, actually, because the wedding was not consummated, and also it was built on um on falsehood. So definitely separation or dissolution is the best way to go about it, and the lady is free to remarry, to get married um without having a record of divorce or having a record of having an ex-husband, as the case may be, because it was just a ceremony, it was just an event that they had, and the wedding wasn't consummated at all. It wasn't consummated at all. And there are other several questions on the part of the guy, that can you marry someone that has a fibroid or PCOS, or has some womb issues. Probably she has aborted severally, and she now have a womb rupture or has some kind of womb damage, or on the lady part, can you marry a guy that has aborted severally for a lady? I mean to say, can you? Actually, can you? It's a question that, can you do this? Can you do that? And like I said, I'm still standing on that point of this shouldn't be generalized. And I'll still come back, I'll still explain why I said it shouldn't. None of these things should be generalized. None of these things should be taken as a doctrine when you counsel people as regard marriage or as regard courtship or their journey into marriage. It shouldn't be a doctrine. It shouldn't be a case study. A generally acceptable case study to use as a manual for counseling or for guide towards selection or towards marriage. You get what I'm saying now? Okay. So there are a few things that I just want to state from my understanding and the little things I've gathered from listening to messages, from counseling, and from few books that I've read so far. So I think firstly, when it comes to medical issues, there are some medical issues that are medically that's medical solutions that can be treated medically, probably using drugs over time and probably maintaining some kind of diet, or can actually be controlled. Why some might be termed as permanent and not be medically solvable. And in that regard, we now come to spiritual aspects, because a lot of people might believe or might come to say that those things that are not medically solvable are spiritually solvable, which I have no argument for that. And because I believe in miracle, I believe in healing, I believe in God transforming organs, God transforming the entire blood type or whatever organs of the body. I've seen that happen, I've heard it, I've read it in books, and I know God can do that. But can we base our judgment or our counsel on the fact that God does that and God can do it? So if it is one, medical issues that can be treated, can be controlled, can be managed, yes, we can say that fine, we can go ahead and see how through using drugs, through using putting some things in place can be addressed. Yes, I have a personal example. It's someone very dear to my heart, very close to me, that for some years now managed the family's issues. Actually, we were first thinking that the issue was spiritual. At a point, we also thought that the issue was from the wife. But as time goes on, during tests, having series of tests, we discovered that the husband was the one that had a poor sperm count. And we're trusting God, praying, and believing God to change the condition. So it took time before that was discovered, because proper medical checkup wasn't done at the right time. But when it was discovered and we started managing it medically, God be the glory. God answered the prayers. That was treated, that was addressed medically. Yeah, with some spiritual medicine too, by prayers and because we believe that everything requires prayers. That was managed. That was being able to God answered their prayer. That's the summary of what I'm trying to say. Whereas we can see some issues that we should not be risked at all. Will I say blood type or genotype? Will I say AS marrying AS or AA marrying SS? That is medically advisable that you can get married, or we can trust the spiritual healing to happen. Yes, it has happened before, and it will continue to happen where we see genotype change miraculously. Yes, it has happened. We have examples. We have people that we can mention, that we can refer you to, just to speak to or to confirm from. But I am always being very careful on telling people to risk this. Yes, if you are not personally convinced that this person is who God instructed you or God wants you to get married to, please do not try it. Do not try it. This should go beyond the love that you have for this person. This should go beyond physical attraction, beyond intellectual capacity, or whatever reason that brought both of you together. Whatever brought both of you together, in as much as it's not your conviction about God telling you that this is the person and you must marry the person. Once you discover that medical aspect, I would advise breakup. I would advise separation. A broken courtship, thousands of broken courtship is better than one broken marriage. Yes. And I will not want you to start bringing forth offspring into problems. Yes, you are causing trauma, you are causing problems to the children that you brought into the world that eventually become a sickler, and it will also be a burden on you financially, emotionally, in all aspects, to affect your work, to affect your career, to affect even your spiritual standing. So it is better not to even venture into it at all than you now believing that we can manage it. They say that there is a way AS and AS can copulate and they will not give birth to SS, and the husband will donate A and the wife will either donate A or the S, and they can give birth to AS, or those things are fallacies that should not even dare at all. You should not dare at all. I am not ruling out the fact that if you are 100% convinced with some spiritual guidance, with some check made, with some approval, yes, with some spiritual covering, approval, and all of those things, guidance, counseling, confirmation, yes, you can go ahead. And it shouldn't even be a very critical point, whereas you have to put your faith in test, like regularly. You have to subject yourself into unnecessary stress. Please don't let anybody deceive you, and don't deceive yourself too. Before you go into any deep relationship with anybody, try and know their status, their health status, medical status. Try to know their blood group, their genotype. There's one thing they call resource factor also, that even if you are good by genotype, you are good even by the resource factor too. Also should, though that one is very easy to manage, to maintain, but you should know all of these things. You should know all of these things, because part of the consequence is miscarriage, which we need to educate ourselves. We need to educate one another properly, medically, even spiritually, and all other aspects. Please. We have seen enough people languishing in health issues, putting themselves into avoidable problems, things that they could have avoided before it got deep. So please, I've say my mind out, like from my view, from my understanding, I've been able to speak to us. If there's anyone out there that is still having issues, I've dealt with a lot of several matters before. A lady was telling me that, well, I love him. I think this is no, this is when the reality show feels like this, the love you have for him won't suffice any longer. It won't suffice any longer. So please, use your head. Be wise. Be wise. Even God's will. We are talking about God's will. It's not bounded. It's not restricted to one person. Let me leave that. I pray the Lord will help us and the Lord will grant us wisdom. I will not make mistake. Shalom.